In the third spiral of the Flarn galaxy, perched precariously on the orbitally indecisive moon of Wormhex, a moon which, incidentally, had been voted most flammable by the Interstellar Council for 6 consecutive cycles, the opening ceremonies of the 94th Imperial Gravitational Combat Games thundered into absurd, overwhelming life. The arena, a vast biomechanical coliseum grown from symbiotic coral and forged resentment, pulsated with light and sound so intense that several less durable species in the crowd had to be scooped into jars for their own safety. Gravity twisted whimsically, sometimes slapping at an alien's drink mid-air just to be rude. The scent in the air, a vile concoction of ozone, sizzling plasma, and what could only be described as regretful seafood, stung even those without olfactory glands. Hovering 10 stories above the combat floor on a dais of carved antimatter, the master of ceremonies cleared his many throats. Vizier Ultarp of the Maltari spoke in a triumvirate voice, one for authority, one for wit, and one just to harmonize. He raised a hand, a limb so encrusted in ceremonial fungi that several audience members took it as a snack offer. "Citizens of the Cosmic Covenant," his voices boomed. "Welcome to the Games. May honor, agony, and interplanetary lawsuits be your guide." The audience erupted in approval. Tentacles waved. Proboscises flared. Several sentient mists briefly rearranged themselves into enthusiastic exclamation points. This was the high holiday of organized brutality, the Imperial Gravitational Combat Games. A quadrennial display of muscular diplomacy, where planets sent their best warriors to battle for glory, influence, and in some cases, exclusive mineral rights. The games were tradition, ancient, sanctified, and utterly theatrical. That year, 193 combatants had entered. Each species had sent champions, scaled, armored, glowing, or buzzing. And then there was Earth. Humanity's entry into the games had been accidental. A clerical mishap in the Galactic Registry's AI, which had been self-medicating with metaphysical haikus, had misfiled Earth under combatant, probationary. The invitation was sent. No one expected a reply. Earth sent a woman with a gun. From the audience box reserved for planetary delegations, high above the roaring pit, a bloated Fraggarth ambassador snorted mucus from 3 nostrils. "Which one's the human again?" he gurgled. "The one chewing gum," his aide replied with a shrug, as if describing a house pet that had wandered into a symposium on annihilation. Down in the launch bay, amid the clamoring of war chants and sacral bone drums, Mira Ellison sat alone. Her armor didn't shine. It muttered. Matte black, patchy with soot and dull gray sealant. Her exosuit looked like it had fought in every war of the last 50 years, and lost most of them. She inspected her rifle with quiet devotion, not reverence. It was a bolt-action antique by Galactic standards, called Bernice. Etched along its barrel in steady, deliberate strokes were tiny maple leaves. One for each shot that counted. She rotated her shoulder, the prosthetic one, until it clicked into alignment. From the overhead speakers, the announcer's voice crackled through a mouthful of vowels. "Next combatant. Representing planet Earth. Species. Human. Function. Sniper. Name. Mira Ellison." A smattering of applause rose, more polite than genuine, more confused than inspired. Mira spat out her gum into a napkin, folded it, and slipped it into her pocket. No point littering in a diplomatic setting. The doors to the prep tunnel hissed open with a reluctance that felt personal. An alien technician, roughly the shape of a desk lamp and the color of an infection, floated over and chirped with bureaucratic pity. "You must be the Earthling," it buzzed, adjusting her harness without asking. "I must," Mira replied. "Your weapon is quaint." "Thanks." "She bites." "Oh." "Your weapon possesses a biting protocol." "She's got mood swings." "Like me." The technician paused, unsure if it had been threatened or flirted with. It chose to hover away. Mira stepped into the tunnel, gravity shifting beneath her like a drunk trying to remember stairs. The corridor was lit with the pulsing blue of ceremonial regret. She walked slowly, deliberately. Her gait was even. She breathed like someone who had long since made peace with what might come. On the arena floor, carnivorous plants unrolled to form viewing benches. The crowd leaned forward. And then she emerged. One woman, one gun, and about 17 jokes waiting to happen. From the stands, the betting boards flickered. Wagers adjusted with hysterical speed. Odds on Mira surviving beyond 60 seconds were pegged at 12,000 to 1. One particularly drunk Gorthon slug placed a bet she would trip before reaching the center ring. She didn't. She walked to her mark, knelt, unslung Bernice, and placed her flat across her thighs. In the opposite tunnel, something growled. A ripple went through the arena like a shared shiver. Vizier Ultarp's voice returned, giddy with anticipation. And facing her, champion of Tarvok, slayer of burning skies, breaker of planet nuts, Groltier. The tunnel on the far side exploded in a roar of heat and bass. Out stomped a titan. Groltar stood nearly 3 meters tall, his 8 limbs flexing in patterns that doubled as threats and minor folk dances. His skin was a series of shifting plates, part obsidian, part molten arrogance. Each footfall cracked the floor. Every movement dared the arena to look away. He carried no ranged weapon, just a gravity flail the size of a satellite dish. Mira watched, impassive. Inside, she catalogued pressure points, limb articulation, likely center of gravity, and how long she had before his flail would reduce her to a narrative footnote. 1 minute. Maybe less. Groltar pointed at her, then to the ground, then made a gesture that seemed to involve impalement, digestion, and possibly interpretive dance. Mira raised a single eyebrow. Charming. The announcer invited each combatant to declare their combat philosophy. A ritual meant to inspire gravitas. Groltar raised his arms and roared, "Dominate!" The crowd shrieked with delight. Myra's voice, over the mic, was quiet but crisp. Center mass. There was a momentary silence. Then laughter. Across a dozen species, in 9 different languages, the crowd chuckled, chittered, howled, and in one case, released celebratory spores. The platform beneath her began to rise. Her launch pad, a simple disk of trembling crystal, levitated toward the sky dome center. She stood still, rifle in one hand, the other tucked behind her back like a bored tourist. Above her, shimmering banners unfolded, each representing a species, flags of fire, of ink, of bioluminescent mist. Earth's banner was late. It appeared last, crudely printed, upside down, with the words, "Property of Supply Depot C," faintly visible. A voice behind her crackled into her earpiece. It was Earth's diplomatic liaison, whose tone hovered between panic and ulcer. "Mira, please be aware of the optics." "I am." "We need survivability. If you could, I'll make it memorable. You're outgunned, out-armored. Your rifle is a choice." The channel went silent. Mira smiled slightly. The countdown began. 10. She rolled her neck. Vertebrae popped like toast. 9. The gravity field flickered. 8. Groltar slammed his flail down. Sparks erupted. 7. Mira tapped her rifle. "You ready, Bernice?" 6. The air shimmered with anticipation. 5. An insectoid commentator hissed, "You can't possibly be serious." 4. Mira adjusted her grip. 3. The arena locked into place. 2. The universe inhaled. 1. The floor vanished. She dropped, like a stone through syrup. The combatants were plunged into the fight arena, a colossal sphere of shifting gravity, filled with debris, floating platforms, and environmental hazards that would make OSHA burst into tears. As she landed, Mira bent her knees, absorbed the shock, and rolled to cover behind a jagged column of crystalline coral. Her suit adjusted with a purr. Bernice clicked, locked, and scanned. Across the sphere, Groltar roared like an avalanche deciding to have feelings. The first blow came fast. Groltar hurled his gravity flail, tethered by a quantum chain, across the space between them. The chain whipped through the air like a comet on a mission. It struck the coral formation behind which Mira had crouched, and it exploded into 1,000 iridescent shards. She didn't flinch. She had already moved. Sliding under floating debris, using gravity pockets to bounce and redirect her motion, Mira moved like someone dancing with physics. She didn't aim. Not yet. Just watched. measured. Groktar closed the distance. Platforms shattered under his bulk. He howled with the joy of combat. Mira landed on a disk of petrified light and finally raised her rifle. Through her scope, she saw only muscle and arrogance. The rifle purred. She didn't shoot. Not yet, she whispered. Too early. She dove again, narrowly avoiding a sweep of the flail that cratered a moon rock slab beside her. The crowd screamed. Bookies adjusted odds mid-broadcast. Diplomats started quietly ordering drinks. Back in the human box, Earth's ambassador muttered, "We shouldn't have sent her." His aide looked up. "Because she's going to lose?" "No," the ambassador said, watching the screen as Mira disappeared into the shadows again. "Because she's going to win. And I don't think the galaxy's ready for that." Back in the pit, Mira crouched behind a fallen column. She ran a finger along Bernice's scope. Her breath was steady. Her heart even. She watched as Groktar began another charge, flail spinning, war cry echoing. She smiled. Not smugly. Not triumphantly. Like someone who'd done this before. Like someone who had just begun writing the ending. Then she whispered, "Center mass." And the story began. Groktar did not retreat. He never had. Retreat was for those who considered mortality a limitation rather than an inconvenience. In the gravity sphere of the Imperial Games, where death was contractual and glory chemically addictive, the Tarlok warrior thrived. He prowled forward, weightless and terrible, limbs outstretched like a deity of war that had skipped therapy for centuries. His flail coiled beside him, humming with stolen kinetic energy, a wrecking moon tethered to his hand. Microjets along his back pulsed in silent rhythms, granting bursts of acceleration sharp enough to crater steel. His species had evolved in high-pressure depths beneath tectonic oceans, where only the hardest survived and the weak were considered seasoning. He had crushed champions. He had unraveled giants. He had once caved in the head of a sidereal titan using a broken femur, his own. Mira Ellison, to him, was not a combatant. She was a statistical error wearing bones. Groktar scanned the debris fields with a predator's certainty, plotting trajectories of sound, reverberations, thermal leaks. His targeting interface displayed her projected positions with pulsing crimson highlights. Yet there was only silence. A kind of deliberate absence. Then the shot came. It hissed from the far left, a sharp, disciplined crack that sliced through the clamor. A fragment of his shoulder armor pinged off into the void, spiraling like a discarded coin. It hadn't pierced, but it had struck. Groktar bellowed, not in pain, but surprise. And that surprised him more. Across the arena, high in the viewing towers, Vizier Ultarp leaned forward, three tongues fluttering like academic bookmarks. "Curious," he mused. "She draws first blood." In the human observation bay, Ambassador Kolari sat forward in her seat. Her jaw tensed, knuckles white against her coat. "She's not shooting to kill," she said quietly. "She's what?" her aide asked. "She's measuring." Back in the arena, Mira shifted position. No wasted movement, no bravado. She slid between magnetic currents like a whisper tucked into armor. Her eyes tracked Groktar's path through the wreckage. Her visor displayed gravitational flux data in real time. She ignored it. She trusted instinct. The sniper's edge wasn't mechanical. It was philosophical. She didn't look for openings. She created them. Below her, Groktar swung his flail, not to strike, but to distort the arena's mass anchors. The floor warped. Shards of broken satellites, weapons, and enemy corpses drifted like obscene confetti. A ship's hull twisted into the air, useless, but screaming in metal. Mira tucked herself under its curve and fired again. Ricochet. The bullet pinged once, twice, then clipped the edge of Groktar's chest plate before skimming into the ether. The second hit. He grunted. "Enough," he growled, low and heavy. He thrust his arm forward. The flail launched, screaming through microgravity, trailing blue-white exhaust. It hit the ship's hull and shattered it. Shards of metal howled through the sphere. Shrapnel cut through the space where Mira had been. But she was gone. Groktar felt something cold thread through his spine. Not fear, but a recognition of form. This was no chaos. It was choreography. She was baiting him. Each shot not a kill, but a story. And he was the one dancing to it. He accelerated, slamming through debris, smashing geometry itself into flat denial. "Come out, little shadow," he roared. "Die with a warrior's name in your ears." She responded with silence, and a bullet that cracked into his thigh. Up above, 1,000 species murmured in 50 variations of awe. In the control tower, a commentator from the Tarsk Nebula, a jellyfish with opinions, floated upside down and barked, "The humans' movements are statistical ghosts. She breaks our analytics." In the betting hall, odds flipped. Bookies screamed. One Gorthan exploded from stress. It was considered an honorable death. Mira landed on a platform barely the size of a coffin lid. She adjusted her position. Her breathing slowed. 3 more shots left in her magazine. Bernice ticked softly in her hands, like an old friend humming battle hymns. She looked through the scope. Groktar's rotation around the gravity core was stable but brute-forced. He didn't compensate for field drift. That told her he relied on momentum, not calculation. She could use that. Her fingers flexed on the bolt. A habit. A prayer. This time she didn't fire. Instead, she whispered, "Round 2. Groktar smashed his way onto her platform. She had known he would. Her silhouette had been deliberate. His arrival was thunderous. And futile. She was already airborne again, backflipping into a gravitational well she had mapped 60 seconds ago. Groktar's foot struck empty metal. He roared and launched his flail mid-spin, tearing the platform apart. It spiraled, chaotic and loud, masking her fall. She dropped into the lower zone of the sphere, where light thinned and gravity coiled like a sleeping serpent. Mira moved with surgical grace. She gripped onto a broken drone chassis, let herself swing, and landed in the blind spot behind a heat-venting pillar. From this angle, she could hit him. Not kill. Not yet. She aimed at his secondary joints. Firing would cripple movement, stagger him, make him angry. Angry meant mistakes. Then something went wrong. Groktar didn't chase. He disappeared from radar. Sensors went cold. Mira blinked, adjusted her visor. No signal. "He's learning," she murmured. In the command chamber, Kolari stood. "He's adapting." Her aide frowned. "You mean?" "Yes. He's starting to hunt her back." The silence returned. He was gone. She was alone. Except she wasn't. The flail came from behind, fast and silent. It missed, but just. Mira twisted mid-air, took a glancing hit that ripped the pauldron from her shoulder. She spun, crashed into the remains of a comet shield, and skidded into an exhaust vent. She didn't scream. She smiled. "Now we're dancing." Groktar emerged from the void like a sunrise made of hate. He was bruised now. 2 shots had found bone, but his eyes burned. Not with rage. With respect. Finally. A fight worth remembering. "You do not run," he said. Mira stood. Blood streaked her lip. Her breathing ragged. "I relocate," she said. She aimed, fired, point blank. The shot struck his wrist, cracked armor, dislocated fingers. The flail dropped. He roared, lunged forward, slammed her into the wall. Her visor cracked. Pain spread across her ribs like thunder. She dropped Bernice. He raised his arm. She drove her knee into his abdomen, then her elbow into his throat. He staggered back, surprised again. She dove for the rifle, missed. He kicked it away. The arena held its breath. Mira raised her hands. Empty. Groktar stepped forward, massive and brutal. Then she grinned. Because this was the plan. She dropped backward, rolled into a gravity pocket she had primed earlier with a field scrambler. The moment her body hit the field, it flared and yanked her sideways at impossible speed. Groktar lunged to follow, and hit the wall of the trap instead. It detonated. A controlled blast, not lethal, but concussive. He staggered. Armor cracked. And Mira was already in the air again, Bernice now back in her hands, called to her wrist via her magnetized glove. She landed. Not on a platform. On his chest. Balanced for half a breath, her knees on his shoulders, rifle pointed between his eyes. He growled. "Do it," he said. "No." The crowd gasped. The delay. The refusal. She leaned closer, whispering into his ear. "Get up. Fight better." Then she flipped backward, vanished into the debris again. Groktar lay there for 3 seconds, then laughed. A low, rolling sound like tectonics chuckling. She hadn't humiliated him. She'd challenged him. Up in the command chambers, Kolari turned away from the window. "She's doing what no one expected," she said. Her aide looked confused. "Winning." "No," Kolari said. "Training him." Back in the arena, Mira crouched low in a crater of molten glass. Her ribs throbbed. Her breath rattled. Her rifle needed cooling. She could end it now. A single round. Clean. Surgical. But she didn't. Because it wasn't time. Because this wasn't just a fight. This was a message. The humans weren't just here to survive. They were here to redefine war. She loaded one final round. And waited. The countdown resumed. Not officially, of course. The Galactic Empire hadn't built this arena for countdowns. It was for declarations, dominations, and explosions that set off 3 separate insurance claims. But deep in Mira Ellison's head, behind the oxygen hiss and the muscle ache, she began her own silent tally. 3. She clutched Bernice tight, fingers ghosting over the worn grip. Her ribs ached with each breath, but she wasn't dead. Not yet. The rifle's cooling vents pulsed warm against her palm. 2. Debris floated gently past, shattered icons of extinct wars, plasma-scorched banners, armor plates etched with forgotten names, a mummified claw still holding a ceremonial knife. No noise. No movement. 1. Groktar reappeared with zero ceremony, just mass, pure, undeniable presence. He didn't roar this time. He didn't posture. He glided through the wreckage like a prophecy finally catching up to its target. Mira fired. The shot cracked clean across the vacuum duct silence. It tore through a spiraling drone and nicked Groktar's ear. He didn't flinch. "Good," he rumbled. He moved, faster than logic, his jets igniting in tight bursts. Mira dove sideways, bounced off the rim of a broken satellite dish, twisted midair, and fired again. The bullet shaved a scale from his shoulder. Groktar laughed, a low, guttural sound like tectonic plates settling. "You are no shadow anymore," he said, charging. Mira rolled into a gravity pocket. Her body whipped around a vertical loop, snapping back toward him. She used the momentum to line up another shot. This one struck his thigh, embedded deep. He stumbled. She pressed her advantage. Her boots magnetized briefly to a chunk of hull. She fired twice more. One missed, the other hit a joint in his left arm. Sparks. Blood. But he kept coming. Too fast. She dropped Bernice. It wasn't a mistake. Her hand went to her belt, pulling free a concussion charge the size of a pebble. She slapped it onto a hunk of spinning debris and kicked it toward him as she flipped back. It sailed in an elegant arc and boom. The shock wave hit hard, distorting the localized gravity bubble. Mira was flung sideways, her vision smeared with motion blur. She tumbled, crashed against a plasma shield carcass, and winced as her left leg gave a wet pop. Still not dead. She gritted her teeth, blood smearing her lip again. "Almost there," she muttered. Groktar staggered through the blast, smoke trailing off his armor. One eye was sealed shut, his flail now hanging from a single tether. He looked magnificent, ruined, but unbowed. He spat a thick glob of black blood into the void. "You do belong here." She pulled herself upright with the grace of someone too stubborn to die. Her voice cracked but didn't tremble. "Took you long enough to notice." He charged. She had nothing but a combat knife now, a single edge honed through 27 kill zones. It wasn't meant for slicing through Tarlock hide, but it was meant for time. She threw it. It spun beautifully, end over end, and struck him in the cheek. It didn't penetrate, but it distracted. That was all she needed. Bernice called to her again, magnetically. She rolled over the curved hull of a derelict escape pod, retrieved her rifle, and fired without looking. The shot didn't hit him. It hit the support cable above him. The cable snapped, tension flung outward, and a 20-ton satellite carcass descended like an angry god. Galactic dodged. Almost. The wreckage slammed into his left side, knocking him into a control column. His armor fractured. His flail detached entirely, drifting like a disappointed pet. He rose slowly. Mira didn't wait. She advanced. Every step hurt. Her legs screamed. Her chest groaned. Her mind tried to curl inward. But she moved anyway. She fired again, close range. This time the bullet found flesh between two cracked armor plates. He flinched. She stopped 10 meters away. Galactic dropped to one knee. "You could kill me," he said. Mira didn't answer. The crowd above was no longer jeering. They weren't even cheering. They were silent. Millions of beings held their breath as one. She lowered the rifle. "I'm not here to kill," she said. "I'm here to teach." He looked up. "You've succeeded." She tossed her final bullet toward him. He caught it. It was a gesture, a challenge deferred, not denied. They stood in silence. Then he smiled. Galactic smiled. It was horrible. It was perfect. "Next time," he said. "No restraint." She nodded once. "Next time." From the overhead loudspeakers came the voice of the Grand Arbiter, who had up until this point been drunk on fermented Nebulan wind fruit and pretending not to care. Now he cleared his multiple throats. "The match is suspended." By unanimous acclaim. The arena erupted. Not into cheers, those came later. First, it was gasps, disbelief, the frantic chirps of recalibrating analytics, and then finally, awe. Because they'd seen it. A human. A woman. A sniper who hadn't just survived the fight. She had commanded it. Ambassador Kolari exhaled. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. Her aide finally closed his mouth. "She didn't kill him," he said softly. Kolari nodded. "No. She gave him something worse. Mercy. Doubt." Galactic stood, slower now. He retrieved his flail and slung it across his back, not as a weapon, but as a ritual. He turned to Mira. He placed a closed fist over his heart, a Tarlock warrior's signal of respect. Mira, bleeding, bruised, and limping, gave a faint salute. They parted, no words left. Above them, the scoreboard glitched from the impact damage. Sparks flew. Somewhere, a new betting market opened. Somewhere else, a dozen noble houses started rewriting their tactical doctrines. In the bureaucracy-drenched center of the Galactic Empire, a panic think tank of military strategists tried to invent excuses. But all Mira heard, as she limped out of the arena, was Bernice's familiar click. Still loaded. Still ready. She exited into the decompression corridor. Medical drones swarmed but waited. She waved them off. "I'm not dying today," she muttered. "Not today." In her earpiece, Kolari's voice finally broke through. "You disobeyed every order I gave." Mira snorted. "I wasn't deployed to follow orders." There was a pause. Then Kolari said, "The Empire will be watching." Mira limped forward. "Good." She stepped into the light. The next morning, 3 systems away, a bureaucratic skink named Valak spilled his 4th cup of mucus coffee as 17 simultaneous intelligence reports detonated across his console. This wasn't metaphor. One actually exploded, something about volatile file encryption and ill-advised decorative plasma lining. "Human," he whispered, his eye ridges flattening. She survived. Across the Empire, the ripples spread. News feeds ran Mira Ellison's name in every conceivable script, from elegant tentacle calligraphy to aggressive throat gargling. Headlines varied: Human Sniper Breaks Champion's Charge, Grolktar Yielded. Voluntarily, and the ever-popular, We May Have Miscalculated Earth. The footage ran on a loop: Myra's precise dodge, her final shot, her refusal to kill. Galactic viewers stared at that image, her silhouette in the broken arena, haloed by wreckage and defiance. Most of them didn't understand what they were looking at. But they felt it. There were protests. Somewhere in the inner rings, a contingent of old guard Martokian generals attempted to declare the entire event a hallucination induced by faulty air recyclers. They were gently but firmly removed from their chairs, replaced with holographic AI tacticians who promptly recommended not antagonizing any species with Earth's kill record. Back in Myra's medbay, a Tarlock nurse was gently attempting to sedate her. "You need rest," the nurse insisted, voice low and humming. "You've suffered 12 microfractures, plasma burn on your shoulder, and a tear in your anterior." "Stop flirting," Mira said flatly, not opening her eyes. The nurse blinked both sets of eyelids. "I wasn't." "Then stop diagnosing me like a sad poem." The nurse flushed a deep purple and retreated. Mira cracked one eye open. The ceiling above her was tiled in iridescent crystal, each segment reflecting a different battlefield. Her room smelled faintly of antiseptic and hot copper, alien medgel probably, and someone had left a bowl of something steaming on the side table. She didn't eat it. Instead, she rolled her neck, flexed her fingers, and ignored the faint tremor. Nerves. Residual adrenaline. Or the slow realization that she had just publicly shamed a Tarlock champion in front of the galaxy. "You always did like the quiet ones," came a voice from the doorway. Kolari stepped inside, elegant even in exhaustion. Her robes were torn at one sleeve, her eyes bloodshot from diplomatic triage. Behind her trailed 2 assistants, one holding a datapad, the other visibly trying not to scream. "You're welcome," Mira said. Kolari let the silence stretch. "We've received 5 peace offers, 12 dual challenges, and someone sent a fruit basket." It exploded. "Rude. The Tarlock High Council has not declared war." Mira arched an eyebrow. "Yet." She gestured, and her assistant handed over the datapad. Mira accepted it with 2 fingers, skimmed the header. "Conditions for post-combat diplomatic negotiations. Addendum XXVII. You want me to sign this?" "I want you to read it." Mira scrolled through pages of legalese until she reached the clause she expected. "The human operative known as Mira Ellison shall refrain from future combat demonstrations unless directly sanctioned by the Galactic Arbitration Council." "Cute," she said. "They want the gun out of the spotlight." "They want plausible deniability," Kolari corrected. "And they're afraid. Of me. Of what you represent." Mira set the datapad down. "You mean that a sniper with no rank, no armor, and no backup just humbled their brightest, biggest war beast in a fight televised to 5 trillion people?" Kolari didn't smile. She didn't have to. "They're rewriting training manuals as we speak. Everyone wants a sniper now. Even the aquatic ones." Mira exhaled. "I was never supposed to win, was I?" Kolari looked away, then back. "You weren't supposed to exist." Mira lay back against the cool cushion. Her ribs complained. The ache in her leg had settled into something between fire and memory. "Did he make it?" Kolari blinked. "Grolktar." Mira nodded. "He survived. Refused surgery. Says scars are truth marks." "Sounds like him. He's started teaching again. He's calling it the Ellison Doctrine." Mira barked a laugh that turned into a wince. "That poor curriculum." Kolari stepped closer. "They may never respect humanity as a species, but they'll never underestimate us again." Mira didn't respond immediately. Her mind drifted back to the arena, shattered steel, frozen breath, the perfect silence just after her final shot. It had felt inevitable. Not because she was better, but because she understood something Grolktar never could. Every shot has a message. Even mercy. I didn't do it for them, Mira said at last. I did it because he needed to lose. Kolari nodded. He agrees. From the hallway came a new sound, soft and irregular. A shuffle of boots. A knock. Mira looked over as a nervous young alien in ornate courier garb entered, antennae twitching. A delivery for the sniper, it said, clutching a box. Mira eyed it suspiciously. Is it ticking? No, ma'am. It's, a gift from the Martokian poet cast. Kolari raised an eyebrow. You have fans. Mira took the box carefully, opened it. Inside lay a single sphere of perfectly polished obsidian, with one phrase etched in Martokian script, the bullet that rewrote the story. Mira closed the box gently. That's going on a shelf somewhere. A beat passed. Maybe, she added, next to Bernice. Speaking of, Kolari said, pulling a thin case from her sleeve, I had your rifle cleaned and rebalanced. She's in better shape than you. Mira took it reverently. Even sedated, her body straightened at the weight. Feels good. Kolari studied her. What now? Mira considered the question. 4 years, she'd been a ghost, a myth whispered among Earth's backdoor operatives. Her kills had been precision poetry, her absences louder than her arrivals. She didn't crave fame. She didn't want medals. She certainly didn't want to become the face of an empire's political tantrum. But something had shifted. The arena wasn't a battlefield, it had been a stage. And she'd left a mark. I'll disappear again, she said at last. Let the galaxy argue over what happened. Let them draft treaties. Rewrite doctrine. Rename their children. Kolari nodded slowly. And if they come looking for you? Mira shrugged. They can try. Outside the medbay, the world moved on. Markets opened. Fleets repositioned. Empires realigned strategies. Dozens of species suddenly wondered whether the tiny blue marble at the edge of the galactic spiral deserved a second look. Earth's delegation began receiving invitations, real ones, not politely veiled ultimatums. University programs wanted to study human warfare. Alien influencers began practicing Earth slang. One particularly confused Graxian star poet released a spoken-word piece titled Bang Bang Mercy Girl that climbed to #1 in 17 moons. But far from the noise, in a shuttle streaking toward the outer fringe, Mira stared out the viewport. Stars wheeled past in cold, bright silence. Beside her sat Bernice, still whole, still quiet. I'm not a legend, Mira whispered to herself. I'm just very hard to kill. The ship's AI flickered on. Destination locked. Do you require tactical support? No. New orders? No. The AI paused. Then, what is your purpose? She smiled. Same as it's always been. The stars didn't blink. They watched. And somewhere in the shadows of the Empire, beneath 10 layers of security clearance, a nameless intelligence director updated their species threat assessment chart. Next to human, female, sniper, they added 2 words in bold. Do not engage. And in the margin, it found, do not provoke. Offer chocolate. Pray.